Life is good, and I'm glad you're here. This is FaithWorks Live, and if you've been around longer than 5 minutes, that we care about the kids around here, and there is nothing more important than our mission to steward the next generation, to raise and to nurture them and to care for them, to protect their innocence, to show them right from wrong. And that can be a lot more difficult than it sounds. Like, truly, what could go wrong? In this world sounds like there's an awful lot of competing forces, of competing agendas and competing worldviews that seek nothing more than the hearts of the kiddos. We've seen that loud and clear, and we've talked about that openly on the show. I think this is the fight. If anything should wake you out of your routine, because there's a lot of things that keep us busy, this is something we can't ignore. This is something that we can't put on the back burner and hope somebody else fixes this. Our kids are our responsibility, and we're going to stand up and protect them. In our state, there's an effort to do just that. And Amanda Watts is joining me. She is an awesome lady. I've been, hoping to connect with her for some time. Amanda, today is the day. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for chatting with us.
Yes, I'm so excited, and it's such an honor to be on here. Thank you, Rebecca, because man, if there was ever a time when moms and dads needed to stand up, and grandmas and grandpas, aunts and uncles, neighbors,
Yes,
like this is what I'm telling people.
absolutely.
I don't care if you have kids, if you know a kid, like we
Right.
are calling you into this fight, okay?
Well, and let's talk about what this looks like. So at the Iowa State
Yeah.
House, we're planning a gathering, one of many across the country. And
Yeah.
it's a plain title, Don't Mess with Our Kids. What is this
Yeah.
all about?
Yeah. So first I'll tell you about what we're going to be doing here in Des Moines, and that's on the Saturday, April 13th. So what you can expect is really just a time of prayer, reflection. We're going to be taking communion elements, some repentance, like we've abdicated authority over some things. And so we need to repent on behalf of some of that. But also some just strategic discussions about how the everyday citizen can get involved, and really just help provide a plan, a path for that, whatever that may. It's going to look different for each and every one of us, but we all have a place, and so we just want to align our values together. And prayer is really important, but we also need boots on the ground, and so we call it the air game and the ground game, right? And so that's what we are focusing on. And then as far as like the nationwide, what we're doing is we just want to we want to powerfully demonstrate visually, and also a spiritual representation of our unity. We're gathering simultaneously at all of the state capitals across the nation, including Washington, D.C. So 51 locations on the same day, in the same times, from 1 to 3 in every time zone, so long as that permit allowed at that capital. And as far as we know, that's never been done in history. Right. So that is going to make quite a statement. And that's what we're going for. We're trying to send a clear message that our concerns and our commitment to our children's future are shared by parents and citizens nationwide.
Well, that
So
is
that's our goal.
powerful. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's powerful. And I think we've seen that in just across the nation in waves over the last couple of years. People talk about the power of the mama bear, like at the school board meeting, the moms and the dads. And as you said, grandmas, grandpas, every adult that cares about kids should be bothered by what's happening, bothered enough to action. But it's not really enough, because that's the feedback that I get. Well, I am angry. Now I'm stirred up. People listen. And like,
Right.
oh no, well, what do we do? It feels like it's a very big problem. It is an attack. It's a spiritual attack on all fronts. What's going on, whether it's in classrooms or coming in through social media or Hollywood or now even government policy, the influence. I think that's an apt description, that these kids are being influenced by all these forces that do not have their best interests at heart and that seek to take them away from what is good and true and right and noble and fill their heads with confusion and lies. So when it looks like such a big problem, what are some practical ways, and I know you'll be talking about this at the event that's coming up too, so people can participate there surely, but what are some practical ways that you're encouraging people, don't get afraid, don't despair, let's armor up and let's do this?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And it's so simple, but I think that it can be overwhelming because a lot of us have never done it before, myself included. I wasn't sure about how to get started, but I'll tell you, one of the really simple things that is so powerful is to just go to school board meetings. Just go to school board meetings, and you probably don't even know where they are or where they're held or what time. That's okay. That's what Google's for, right?
Right.
Google it. Google will tell you
find
who's on
out.
the school board. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we have, we'll never tell anybody who to vote for, but we do need to vote according to biblical values.
And Amanda, you were talking about, I think, the power of all of us working together. It's something that's simple, but just even getting us out of our routine, out of our comfort zone is a big thing. And the enemy of our souls loves to lull us into complacency. I think that the forces that, like I talk about, I think that there's a huge spiritual element to all of this. It's not just a bunch of people woke up one day and said, well, hey, what if we dismantle the nuclear family? And what if we,
Right.
deconstruct
Right.
all the infrastructure that's been underpinning this really successful and prosperous society? This has been coming for a long time. A lot of
Yes.
us were asleep to that. Now that we're awake, you were talking about some practical ways that we can get involved. And I think that would be a great first step would be this event that's coming up. And do people still need to register for this? What do they need to do in order to help participate?
That is a really great question. So before I answer about how to, get involved for this weekend, I'd like to go back to that because I think that that's so important. We can't just point to one, this isn't just on the Joe Biden administration, right? Like this, there has been for generations, we've been giving away these freedoms and allowing the government to trick us and lull us away from what we know to be true and to be powerfully just and biblically to align with our morals and our values as just a nuclear family. And so you can go back many, many, many years, even as far as like as when women had to enter the workforce, and so it started slowly, and so that is why this is a multi-generational fight. We all have blood on our hands, every single one of us, for being asleep at the wheel. But the good news is that we serve an amazing God, and he's had a plan all along. And I don't believe he's given up on America. I believe that that's why he's calling women to use their voices right now, women specifically, everybody's, right? But women specifically, because our voices have been silenced more than men's. And I really feel like that is why God is pushing women to the front. If anybody's going to speak out about some of the stuff that's going on with our family, that's going to be a mama bear, right? Don't mess
Right.
with my kids. Like that's a mama bear voice that can only champion that, and the same with the family and, abortion and all of that. Like only women who have experienced that can speak to that. And so I kind of got off point there, but to answer your question
No, it's all
about
good. I'm not going to stand in your way when you're
I'm passionate. No, I'm passionate about it. Because I think that one of the biggest lies that we believe is that our voice doesn't matter and that we don't have anything to say and that nobody wants to listen to us anyway. And so what we do is we shrink back in smallness and we don't use the voice that God's given us. Each and every one of us have individual thumbprints and fingerprints. Well, the same is true with our voice. And to not use our voice is to abdicate our authority that we've been given, even clear back in Genesis. So, in this weekend, though, sorry, I'm getting to that. April 13th, you can register for free. Come to the event. It's a free event. We have some people out there trying to scam people to buy tickets. Don't buy tickets. It's completely free. And you can do that at don'tmesswithourkids.us. The other thing is if you have family and friends that maybe don't live in Iowa, this is happening in their state too. So they can go to that website and register for their own event and all the details of, their time zone and their location. Most of them are at their state capitals, but because of permits, things are a little wonky in just a few states. So, but that website will have all the information that they need. But in Iowa, we will be at the Iowa State Capitol on the West Terrace.
And what time does 1 to 3? All right.
Yep.
We can mark it on your calendar, register on the website. I'll put an easy link down below this convo too, so that people can get to it. I'm in. I'll plan to see you there. And we've got to stand together, I think, in all of this, because that's, again, another lie that, it's just you and everybody else, what's wrong with you? You're the weird one. I'm perfectly comfortable. Like I've made peace with the fact that I'm going to be the weird one, and that's okay, because I'm going to be weird for Jesus. We are a peculiar people, seriously. And it is time, I think, for us to start acting like we follow the one who leads us, right? We should look like the shepherd. We should look like our king, and his approval is the one that matters, the audience of one, as we sometimes say. And he's given us our children, and it is a sacred honor to be able to raise them. And we care not just about our kids too, because I think that's sometimes the instinct is to say, well, my kids, maybe, for those of us, we homeschool, and that's a wonderful, beautiful thing. And we talk about that a lot on this show too. So you can do that. That's a good option. But every kid in our community deserves better than being fed lies and confusion and destruction and being led down this path, for, again, folks that do not have their best interests at heart. And there's just so much deception that's been going on. And the enemy works overtime in that I think our generation has been taken captive to do his will, as it talks about in First Timothy or in Titus. And we have compassion, great compassion for that situation, because I know what that's like. But the truth is the thing that can set us free. And so if we can gather together and say, our kids deserve so much better than what's happening now, and we're going to be that. We're going to stand there for them, and we're going to protect them against all forms of evil. So help us, God. So if you can be there coming up at this event on April 13th in the Iowa State Capitol, or wherever you're listening across the nation, find your spot to gather with mamas and papa bears and just every adult that cares about kids. Amanda, God bless you for standing in the gap on this. Anything else that you'd like to say to encourage parents today?
Yeah, just real quickly, I graduated from Des Moines Public Schools and swore that my kids would never endure that. And so I never had I never wanted my kids in the public school system. And so we did that. We put them in private Christian schools. We homeschooled. And then we moved out of Des Moines, and we were homeschooling. We moved to a little tiny community and found out that 5 generations before we moved here by accident, that my family was from here.
Oh, wow.
This little town of like 300 people.
That's
and
so
so we
cool.
were like, God, what are you doing? Like, why? Why 5 generations later are you bringing us back here? And so we really started to look at this as our mission field. And this is in like 2019, 2020. And in 2020, January, God, his timing's always so good. He said to me, you're protecting your kids from their story. I want you to put them in the public school here. And you have to understand, I had no framework for that. Okay. And so if you have already been called to homeschool your kids, hear my heart, then obey God in that. Okay. But not all of us are called to do that, because we're salt. And so some of us are meant to preserve culture in the school systems. And so you've got to know your assignment. You've got to know what your kids are called for. So anyway, so we said, okay, we'll enroll them in the fall. And then COVID happened. And I was like, God, did you mean this fall? Like, even know what that's going to look like. Everybody's pulling their kids out. We're putting ours in. And it was this really hard learning curve for all of us. But man, God has been so faithful in it. And when I really started to get involved in this and started to look into who was on our school board and go to school board meetings, it was really quick that I started getting pushed to the front. And now, and the school board meetings are boring for the most part. Not all of them are going to be, get the books out of our library and, let's talk about the DEI curriculum. A lot of them, it's just boring. But if we show up and show the school boards that we're there to support them, that we're there to help, that we're there to serve, and that we care, like that is so loud. That is so loud. And right now I've been appointed to a committee that gets to pick our new superintendent. I have been appointed to a committee that gets to overlook all of the curriculum that's coming into our district, rewrite the mission statement. Like, you couldn't make this stuff up. And I'm not qualified for that. Like, hear my heart. Like, that is what God is doing through simple obedience, through somebody who's just a mom, just a lover of Jesus, and who just started showing up. And if he would open doors like that for me, then he'll open doors like that for you. And so that's one of the things that I think the mistakes that we've made with culture is that we've turned into these balls of light, to like protect ourselves from all this darkness, when Jesus is saying, you're the exit strategy. We're waiting on him, and he's like, but you're the exit strategy, string yourselves out. Like, you're meant to preserve culture here. Don't be afraid of it. Know what I've called you to. Stay in your lane, right? Don't go out picking fights that I've not called you to pick,
Mhm.
but get out there. Like that's
Yeah.
what you're here for. Of all the generations and all the times and all the places, here we are in the Super Bowl of humanity, right? Like this is a big
Yep.
deal. This is the end of the end. And we've been created for such a time as this and gifted and called for it. And we have specific assignments. And so go do it. Go do it, beloved. Like that's what we're here for. Don't be afraid. Don't shrink back. 2 Timothy 1:7, God's not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind.
And as
So,
Isaiah said, here I am, Lord, send me.
yes.
That's it.
Yes.
That's here we are. And
Yeah.
we're going to speak and we're going to stand by God's
Yes.
grace. Thank you, Amanda, for doing exactly that, for joining us for a little bit here. And I know you're super busy with all this coming up. So thank you for doing this and for heading up this effort in our state. Again, it's going on across the nation. So find your spot at don'tmesswithourkids.us. Easy link down below. And pass this on to a friend. Everybody, it'd be a party. Everybody come on in.
Yeah.
Invite your friends.
And wear blue and pink. Wear
blue and pink together. Okay. All right. Well, I'll color coordinated. All right. We'll do that. Thanks, Amanda Watts, for being our special guest today, and spread the word out to your friends. Until next time, we have a mission, which is to love God, to serve people, and to live free. Thanks for listening to Faith Works Live.